And speaking of chemtrails, we are now joined by Elana Freeland, the author of Chemtrails, HAARP, and the Full Spectrum Dominance of Planet Earth. Hello, Elana. How are you?
Hi, Richard. Can you hear me? I can't see you. I don't know if I'm supposed to see something.
That's all right. I think we lost the HOA connection to hang out on Earth, but to hang out on air, rather. But we can hear you, and we're glad that we finally connected with you.
Yes, I had a very strange little drama here, but I'm back.
All right, we're glad to have you. Now, let's just mention very quickly, you're coming to Toronto on April the 18th, University of Toronto. And our good friends Patrick and Kadena at Conspiracy Culture are putting that together. And people can go to their website for more information, conspiracyculture.com. Again, it's Elana Freeland, and it's Chemtrails, HAARP, and the Full Spectrum Dominance of Planet Earth. Now, you've taken this whole chemtrail thing, I think, in a whole level further than most people. Most people, they look up in the sky, they see these strange, persistent contrails, and think, okay, what are they spraying, and does it have to do with forestalling global warming? Is it population control? Are they just trying to control the weather, create droughts? I mean, yes, I guess that's all part of it, but you've taken it to a different level. This has to do with, as you say, this full spectrum dominance. It's about almost literally tapping into, our cellular level, our DNA, to control us in this manner. Explain.
Well, the term full spectrum dominance, I borrowed that from the U.S. military doctrine of full spectrum dominance. And I see that term two ways. One is certainly the electromagnetic spectrum. They want full control of the electromagnetic spectrum. This will be remembered as the age of electromagnetics. And then there's the other level, full spectrum dominance, whereby all of life is now being militarized. And I think that's what you mean, that I've taken it to a whole other level. I'm bringing in the one thing that is missing from all the dialogues that I hear of geoengineering, climate change, extreme weather, etc. There is never one mention of any military agendas having to do with any of this, which should be raising red flags to everyone who's listening to the ongoing dialogue as we will be heading toward the final conference, the UN conference on climate change in Paris in December 2015. And I try in the book to present what leaped out at me as I researched the book, the 7 agendas of that are military in nature behind all of this. And I attempted to prove that. I think that Jerry Smith had written 2 books. He wrote a book on HAARP, and he also wrote one on weather warfare.
Yes, he did.
And I looked over Jerry's material, and yes, he certainly saw a connection between chemtrails and HAARP technology. I don't say HAARP anymore because that installation up in Gakona, Alaska, is changing hands right now and is being retooled. But what I do mean, and I'm continuing to use the term HAARP, is HAARP technology, which is all the way around the world now. And I've already begun the next book, which will be on the space fence. And the space fence is actually the culmination of the old FDI program under Reagan and Cheney. That would be, and George H.W. Bush. That would be the the Strategic Defense Initiative, or as we like to call it, the Star Wars technology.
Explain how the chemtrails and the spraying of aluminum particulates and strontium and barium and so forth into the atmosphere, how that works in conjunction with HAARP-like technology to sort of tap into our bodies and our brains.
Well, consider how the chemtrails are coming out, and of course there are arguments about that. Jim Lee at climateviewer.com, he sees it that the JP8 fuel has additives in it now, and that what we're seeing are those additives. Then there are the people who say it's just chemtrails coming out, different pipes, different system on the jets. And then there are people like me who believe it's probably both and instead of either or. And when this comes out of a jet, it is already loaded with nanoparticulates of various metals that are highly conductive, and polymers, and piggybacked onto the polymers are a variety of biological experiments. And so if we look at the weather alone, and I like to always think of California and how all of the moisture coming off the South Pacific is being forced north, offshore of California, up to the jet stream at Vancouver Island. Then the jet stream is loaded up with that moisture, and that moisture is taken east and south. And in order to do that, you've got to have lots of nanoparticulates of conductive metals that you're laying along the coast, north-south, in order to make a channel, a tube going north, and then you send that radio frequency along that, and that will send that weather system in that direction.
So if they want a drought in one area, they can do that. If they want a high pressure system somewhere else or rain somewhere else, they can do it all. They're controlling the weather. We'll take a time out, Elana. We'll come back and continue to discuss the full dominance spectrum, chemtrails and HAARP with Elana Freeland right here on The Conspiracy Show. My name is Richard Syrett. Stay with us. Elana Freeland is here, sifting through the confusion surrounding chemtrails versus contrails and how extreme weather is being geoengineered to enrich disaster capitalists and intimidate nations. And she will be here in Toronto, the University of Toronto, on Saturday, April the 18th. And for more information, visit conspiracyculture.com. Now, this idea of geoengineering, and scientists they're sort of setting us up. They're acclimatizing us to this idea. I believe that it's already underway, but they're saying, well, maybe at some time in the future we're going to need to geoengineer in order to forestall global warming. Do you then believe, Elana, that, and I believe this, that the whole climate change or the global warming idea was created, maybe through the Club of Rome or something like that, in order to offer the cure, which is this geoengineering?
Well, I think you're right that it's already begun. We're 15 years now into what used to be called Project Cloverleaf, and I think that the problem I foresee is that these, as you notice, they've really increased the pace of so-called debate in the mainstream media. But there's really only two positions. One, either you're a nutcase and you don't think there is any climate change, or you think that we have to do something drastic in order to help our atmosphere out at the same time that we're reaching deep into our pockets to pay carbon taxes. And this either or is, as you know, the Hegelian dialect. I think it's a really good way to look at if you can control the dialogue, you can control the outcome.
create the disease in order to offer the cure.
What we're heading toward is the Trojan horse. I hate to overuse that term, but I love it. The Trojan horse of climate change. It'll be wheeled through the gates of civilization as the globalists take command in a world government, in a more direct world governance way, a more overt world governance way, through blackmailing and muscling nations regarding their guilt over their climate, and they can then send this covert control over the weather. They can then send weather to anyone who's not obeying the edicts being passed down from the Council on Foreign Relations and the Bilderbergs and all, et cetera. So I see this as the arrival at what they have been heading toward. I think this whole 15 years, and this is all conjecture based on my research and thinking, I think that this whole 15 years has been getting it all set up, getting the glitches worked out. Sometimes we saw weather that went too far. Sometimes we saw illness in populations going too far at the beginning when they started doing the chemtrails. So they've tweaked this and tweaked that and had enough experiments in the weather engineering as well as the biologicals as well as electromagnetic experiments that they now feel confident that they can go forward and take charge in a more overt, out in your face way, and that's how I see what's coming up. I mean, there's a conference going on every month. There was one in San Jose several weeks ago. Recently, it was at Cambridge University in the UK. So one after another, boom, boom, boom. And meanwhile, the scientists who speak up are being marginalized. They're being ridiculed. And, of course, the chemtrails movement, which is really the only public outcry going on, is ridiculed. And the irony, Richard, is that term chemtrails is straight from the U.S. Air Force Academy. I mean, that's a military term that they had, but they've made it into a joke and a conspiracy theory. All I have to do is say those two words, say chemtrails here where I live, and people all smirk at me. So it's been very successful, the control of the public debate and the ridiculing of those who are actually the Cassandras of the day speaking out. They know what's coming. And will it be the same geoengineering program? No, I think it'll be much more. But at least this is in place, and they can go from here.
Yeah, now, you're saying that this weather control, weather warfare, being used to intimidate nations. So give me for instance. Let's say that a hurricane, and we have in the recent past seen hurricanes in places where we normally don't get hurricanes, which to me is a signal that there's something being manufactured. But are these
tornadoes?
Right.
Yeah.
But are these nation states unleashing these weather systems against one another, whether it's a drought, whether it's a wildfire, is that how it's being waged, war now?
Well, I think there is weather warfare going on, but I don't think everyone who can do it is a participant. I think some people are more sane, more civilized than the American military. Right away, I think of Iran. Iran is being pressured with drought. And, of course, they are involved in trying to work with ionizing rain in their drought-infested lands, and it's forcing that new technology to come. I mean, it used to be silver nitrate. Now it's an ionizing process that can be done. But again, you need a weather system rolling in to make it work for you. And if the powers that be are keeping that weather system from coming to your nation, then it could be that you're going to be hard-pressed to stand up and be counted against this latest technology of empirism, is how I see it. So, take Russia, for example. Russia has the same technology, the sophisticated technology, and yet Russia is choosing to go about this in a different way.
All right, Elana, I've got to jump in here. We'll take a timeout, come back, and continue to discuss chemtrails, HAARP, and the full spectrum dominance with Elana Freeland right here on The Conspiracy Show. Stay with us. Elana Freeland stays with us and received this email from Ryan, and he doesn't want his last name used. But Elana, he's wondering about chemtrail webs that fall from the sky. Are you familiar with chemtrail webs?
Oh, yes. And those are, in general, I would say those are polymers, and some of them are melting and might end up being all over a bush or a tree. And those polymers are the carriers of the fibers that are Morgellons. And Clifford Carnicom, an independent scientist, has renamed that in lieu of the fact that the CDC and the EPA refused to duplicate his research, has renamed the Morgellons, which is inappropriately named, the cross-domain bacteria, meaning that the little critter that rides in on the fibers that have a polymer shell and that we then inhale and ingest through GMO foods, the water in our environment, the air that we're breathing, that these are they're going into our bodies, and inside of them is the bacteria that goes through all three domains of nature. It's completely genetically engineered. So when you see the polymers coming down, they're just floating down, and please do not touch them without gloves on, because some of them, depending on what the chemical composition is, it could be very harmful.
And Morgellons is people seem to have these. They almost look like little tiny. They're fibrils or little wires. It looks like coming out of their skin.
Yes, that's exactly the polymer covering. It's like a chitin covering. Inside are four other parts, one of which is the reproductive part, and they also have nanosensors and microprocessors in them, and they communicate with each other once they've been lodged in the body.
It's like we're being tagged it's like we're being tagged like cattle.
Yes, they communicate with each other via those microprocessors. The sensors that are collecting data can be remotely connected with, and the data in them can go to computers, laptops in Denver, et cetera. I mean, it's a brave new world. And, this might be horrendous and scary and all of that, but, we've lived with parasites and then symbiotic relationships for many thousands of years as living in mammalian bodies. So, for me, I know I have them. I've seen them under a microscope eating the iron out of my erythrocytes.
Do we all have Morgellons then, Elana? Is that the...
We all do, Richard. We've all ingested these creatures, and only some people develop lesions, and some don't. And as far as why don't I have the lesions? Well, I have a few theories, but I don't really know. This is where each of us is becoming a scientist, and I did want to address that. I want to say to people, especially people thinking of coming to the talk or not, that we are on our own now, because the scientists who know about this technology on all sides of it, not just the biologicals, they are either threatened, their families are threatened, or they have signed confidentiality agreements, and we cannot wait for them to speak out because they are in fear. So I find if I can just do the clear research and dispassionately, and not allow the fear to take hold, you can learn a lot about this, and therefore you are better defended. I don't see that hiding our heads in the sand like an ostrich will really help at all. We need to be bolder and braver in this amazing era of we're going all the way from a missile defense system to a space fence system. I mean, this is a space age we're living in, and it also has transhumanist aspects to it. And, of course, that's what they're experimenting on us for the future, so that they know more. And they're very interested in how certain people, I mean, if you go to the doctor, they'll send you down the hall and you tell them about the lesions and about these little wiry things sticking their heads out, and they have black, red, and blue heads, each one having a different function, each one genetically engineered for a different function. They'll send you down the hall without having taken a sample at all to the psychiatric ward, and you'll be it'll go on your record that you have delusional parasitosis. I mean, this is a very contrived, and people say, oh, how could they keep this secret? Well, the best way to keep a secret is out in the open, because people are so brain dead now from their TVs and their iPhones and their texting and the bad food they've been eating for 50 years. So, you know, there's very little apology and very little need to be covert anymore. I think we're going to see the day when it's all admitted, but in a language that you're going to have to learn how to read. It's not going to be exactly as I'm saying it.
Let me go back sorry, excuse me, Elana. I want to go back to Ryan's email here because he makes a very good point. In order, you know, maybe to wake people up, if we were to present them with evidence this way. He writes, someone needs to create a wide-angle, time-lapse video of a clear blue sky and then chemtrails being sprayed and then show them clearly seeding, creating clouds that spread out and fill the sky. He says that's the proof we need. Has anyone ever put together a video like that?
Absolutely.
Oh, they have.
In fact, I recommend that people ask to join. It's a private group, a Facebook group that I've formed around my book. Just ask to join, and it's called Elana Freeland, Chemtrails, HAARP, and the Full Spectrum. And I have amazing people sending in videos. I mean, there are thousands of people who now are awake. And they are, at this point, they're going through their different phases. Their phases are not in lockstep with mine. They're looking at the sky, and they're studying the sky, and they've got their cameras out, and they are going to it. And they send me a lot, and there are a lot of excellent sites, not just mine. But I really, I've seen that. I've seen that video several times, and it's like, Ryan, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make them drink. And in that case, you can show people these things, but in a way, it's so unreal to them because it's on a cosmic scale. It's not like the guy next door is bothering you. This is in the sky. This is going on. They're redefining clouds. They're putting things in kids' textbooks now. They're naming new clouds. I mean, my favorite is Cirrus Contralis. So, you know, everything is being re-engineered for our perception. This is what Brzezinski meant by perception management. We are being managed.
You mentioned the clouds. You mentioned the clouds.
And you realize what's going on.
You mentioned the clouds, and I remember as a kid seeing those huge cumulus clouds that would come before a major thunderstorm. I rarely see those anymore. They're not these natural looking puffy, clouds. It's just that constant gray haze.
Well, I'm out here in the Pacific Northwest, and I'm seeing something different from what you're seeing because I'm living on the West Coast where the weather is being made by the U.S. Navy, and we call it the Pineapple Express, and it's South Pacific moisture taken hold of via radio frequency, radar, SBX. There are all sorts of instruments, not counting, I don't even need to talk about the HAARP Gakona installation. Don't need that now for this. And that weather, I see cumulus, but it's coming in from the west, and then I see a hazy, very thin cloud, white, gray, various layers. You're looking from the bottom at about at least 6 or 7 layers that have been laid above your head. And I can tell now, after looking, I can tell the difference between natural cloud structures, of which there are very few, and the artificial cloud structures.
What type of planes are spraying? They used to say they were the Hercules transport planes. What planes are responsible for the spraying?
It doesn't really matter anymore because all of them are being used. The commercial airlines, they're picking up a few extra bucks by having it. They have drones up there that are laying the trails. Used to be C-130s, when Evergreen Airlines was still going, which is a CIA outfit. That's closed down now. I mean, they're moving toward a different system now, whereby you will not be able to see those trails much longer. They will be invisible to the eye down here.
It's an additive in the fuel.
They will still form clouds.
Where are the whistleblowers? Where are the people that are responsible? Okay, so let's say it's not a case of loading these big drums of this concoction onto the back of a Hercules transport plane. That we would know, we could track that. Someone could be a whistleblower and say I did that. But somebody somewhere, you would think, would be willing to speak out about this. Their conscience would mitigate against doing this any longer. Where are the whistleblowers?
Well, I think it's conscience versus fear. I remember when Sylvain Henry in Ottawa had 7 pilots, he told me, who were willing to come forward and speak. But I have not heard a word. So I assume it's their families, it's their career. I don't know. I know William Binney came forward a while back, and now and then people come forward. But that's what I'm saying to people. We cannot wait for that. We need to study. We need to understand our condition so that we can prepare our children and our grandchildren, because this is not going to go away right away. I mean, everyone who comes to my site, that's, of course, the first thing on their mind. How do we stop this? When can we stop this? We've got to stop this. Well, I'm certainly in agreement. I mean, Alexandra Hunter is now looking into the legal aspects in her state of Arizona. We just heard that in Rhode Island, a lawsuit has been brought against the federal government by a town in Rhode Island regarding under the pollution clause. I mean, anyone who has a good idea, this is a time to use it, because we are busy learning our condition and taking care of our immune system, so that we don't grow ill, so that, if indeed it has to do with the lesions, so that we don't get so sick with Morgellons. And meanwhile, how can we stop this now? Is it only going to be that we're going to have to learn to live with this? I really don't know the answer to that question, but I do know that I will not stop working on this. I will keep going, because to me, I'm familiar with all the issues that are going on, and there are some very important ones. But the air we breathe and the water we drink and the soil that is being so alkalinized that trees are dying and plants will not grow, we really need to look at this chemical, biological warfare that is raining down on us from the sky.
All right,
and
Elana,
I gotta say this new. It isn't.
I'm out of time, unfortunately, but people can read the book. It's Chemtrails, HAARP, and the Full Spectrum Dominance of Planet Earth. And, of course, you're coming to the University of Toronto Saturday, April the 18th. For more information, conspiracyculture.com. Thanks, Elana.
Thanks, Richard, for having me.
My pleasure.